Crime today is an American epidemic.
Ain't no killer.
The system doesn't work for people who can't afford to defend themselves.
The whole neighborhood know what happened. The whole neighborhood know you grabbed the wrong guy.
I'm an innocent man.
I don't know you the way a mother should know her son.
Everyone saying you did something. After a while, you start to question yourself.
What I think is so fascinating about this film is the way that it captures New York in the 80s, and particularly Brooklyn at that time, very different than we know it now, but also the crime wave that was taking place. And it's a period that's been written about extensively. It's been captured in many documentaries. So for you trying to capture that, not just as an actor, but a producer on this project, what was most helpful to you in terms of the resources available?
Gosh, I think a book called Just Mercy really helped, by Brian Stevenson. I devoured that book, and it really helped with my research. I think some conversations with Michelle Alexander, who wrote a book called The New Jim Crow, I think really helped because she kind of put everything into perspective as far as the administrations and connecting the dots. I don't know if you noticed in the film how you would see from presidents and how it just, mass incarceration really became a thing. And Governor Pataki in New York and just different things like that. I think that research really helped. And then just really talking to the guys that were in the neighborhood. They lived it and went through it. So I think getting it in depth from them, also helped.
My profound ignorance about it prior to going into it, just not having a sort of idea about just how deep it was and how much was moving and going on at that time. It was crazy. There was just a lot going on politically and the sort of socioeconomic strata. It was just it's amazing to me that isn't paid more attention to, and how much of an effect that had on people, particularly black people at the time. The crazies were horrendous, or the 80s, I said the crazies, I perhaps should call it that, were horrendous for black people in the city. If you look at the sort of the 70s and how we were like rising, blah, 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 everything was there. And then we got decimated and destroyed, and a lot of that had to do with sort of political implications and laws and things that were brought into the fold and the awareness. I think Colin Warner in Crown Heights was a direct victim of that, and sort of the sort of unwilling nature of the establishment to even look at it in an objective way. And it's like, well, whatever, let's just get another number going here, and so he had to be a part of that, and it's unfortunate. But I knew that I had to be a part of the story because I hadn't heard about it, and I figured that there must be other people who hadn't heard about it.
They're gonna keep me in here until I say I killed that man. You know I would die before I do that.
We're gonna keep fighting for you.
You got your family, you got your life. Why are you still wasting your time on me?
It's not just about you.
And you're also highlighting the immigrant experience. Again, very different at that time than today, and yet I think there's a lot of common ground. What struck you most about that at that period?
The immigrant experience, I think, is always a tricky thing because it's all about identity and really like knowing where you fit in the country, And my parents are Nigerian, so I always say, like, in my house growing up, on the outside of my house we were in America, on the inside we were in Nigeria because they didn't know any other way. So there was always sort of this struggle between like, who am I, where do I fit, identity-wise, and that's the same thing that Colin and Carl went through. They came over, and they're thinking America was going to be one thing, and then shortly after they come, Colin is arrested for something that he didn't do, and he's told, look at his dreadlocks. I think he's the type of person that would do something like this, which is what he's told, while he's arrested. All of that can shake and really shape an immigrant that comes into this country. So it was difficult. And then you don't come in with any money. So you go through a situation like this, you don't have the proper, funds to get the right representation in court. So, you know, sometimes if you're rich and guilty, you have better chances than if you're poor and innocent, you know. So, and that's what you kind of deal with in that experience.
You're embodying someone who you actually had access to. Not only did you have access to speak to Colin himself, but court transcripts and also so many accounts from family members and friends.
Yeah.
For you, where do you think you were able to get the most accurate representation of who he was then? Because he's changed so much over the course of his life.
Yeah, I think it was just more kind of searching internally. When I spent a lot of time with him, rather than like look at the little twerks and things he does, which I was looking at, but rather than pay attention to that as much, I was just really looking at him as a human and seeing what I connected to and what I could bring in myself outward rather than outside in, if that makes sense. More so just sort of embodying what I felt. And I knew if I stayed true to that, I could probably get close to the ballpark of what he was, rather than try to contrive the experience by, you know, being like, I'm gonna whip my hair like this because he did that at this particular time and wipe my nose like this. I'd rather keep it in.
Matt Ruskin, who directed this, he talked about listening to an episode of This American Life that inspired him to tell this story. And for you, you know, again, not only as an actor, but you have a production company, you're a storyteller outside of being a performer. How do you seek out projects, or where do you draw your inspiration in terms of what stories you want to tell as a producer?
Yeah, for me it's really easy. It's just, do I like the story? And do I like the script? It's so simple. I think that, you know, I have particular taste. Not everyone shares that taste, but I don't want to necessarily be doing projects that I'm not passionate about and that I don't like, you know, and really love and want to put my best foot forward. And so I think that's it. If I like it, if the script says something, it doesn't have to have a grand message or anything. You know, it could be any sort of film. But if I like it, then I'll probably want to get involved.
Colin Warner lived in Texas
Or Louisiana, he would have been executed long ago.
Longer sentences, more prisons.
They took everything from me.
More police.
Everything.
I can't just pretend this situation doesn't exist.
Well, this situation exists too.
The truth is going to come out. Can't leave an innocent man in jail.
I'm gonna take you home.